Hello, everyone, wherever you may be, and welcome to Coalition Conversations, brought to you by the Coalition of Community College Architecture Programs. This broadcast is based on the conference held in June 2024, What We Teach, How They Learn. The conference was sponsored and held at Montgomery College at their Silver Spring, Maryland campus, and was also sponsored by the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards and the American Institute of Architects. I am today's speaker, Emmanuel Ricardo Moreno, Assistant Professor at Doña Community College in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I have a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from the University of Texas at Arlington and have worked in the field for over 20 years. I started my journey as an educator in 2001, shortly after receiving my master's from la Universidad Nacional Autonoma de Mexico. Since then, I had the opportunity to teach at the Paso Community College, the University of Texas at El Paso, Art Department, Texas Tech College of Architecture, and Doña Community College. As full-time faculty at the El Paso Community College, I spearheaded the lecture series that included internationally known architects, something not common in community college programs. I am involved with several committees at NCARB and the current vice president of the coalition. Now, let's get started. The project I will be presenting is one my students worked on when I was at the El Paso Community College. The program there is solely transfer-oriented and focused on encouraging the students in seeking a Bachelor of Science in Architecture with a partnered Texas Tech College of Architecture, El Paso campus, or any other university they wish to transfer to. The project I will be presenting incorporates Mesoamerican culture to engage and pique student interest. This is a final project for Design 2 and is broken down into 2 phases, each taking 4 weeks to complete. The title, Culturalization in Design. John Haydock has been a very big influence in the way I introduce and give projects to my students. And one can find some really good lectures either given by John Haydock himself or about John Haydock by David Gersten, all these on YouTube. There is one particular quote by John Haydock that I really, really like, and it says, "I breathe because it keeps me alive. But there is a more important reason, because when I breathe in air, I breathe in all the sounds from all the voices since the beginning of time, all the voices that have placed thoughts into the air, that is, thoughts escaping from the soul, through the voice into the air which I breathe in." And David continues by saying, "The sounds of the past still exist. They are floating in the air. How do they commingle with the sounds of the present?" I'm going to let you absorb that for a couple of seconds, and I'm going to bring you back to the purpose of teaching the foundations. When assigning problems, just like you all, you probably go back to the projects that were once given to us when we attended college. But then I think about what it was that I learned from them. And of course, not that I didn't learn anything from them, but I always questioned, how does this relate to me? And how can I make my assignments relatable to my students who are of Mexican descent? For some reason, it brought me back to this project, the design of the proscenium wall. And at the moment, I didn't understand what the learning outcome should be. And about 6 years ago, for some reason, I decided to give this project to the students. But I was looking for another way of introducing the project and another way of thinking about the proscenium and its purpose. And I thought about the voices that were projected here. And I started to think about that quote by John Haydock and of what David said. The sounds of the past still exist. They are floating in the air. How do they commingle with the sounds of the present? In one of the videos with David Gersten talking about John Haydock, he mentions the Globe Theater. And so I follow up on the subject of the theater and looked at Shakespeare's Globe Theater and noticed that both the proscenium wall and the theater are places that are meant to tell graphic representations of stories of either mythologies or exaggerated dramas like Romeo and Juliet. And I show the students the layout of the proscenium wall and the audience and the stage. And I compare it to the Globe Theater and also notice that it has an audience and a stage. However, the proscenium has changed from a wall to an opening where the action takes place. A difference too from the proscenium wall to Shakespeare's Globe Theater is that it becomes interactive, and not because they want it to be interactive, but because the audience are uneducated and drunk, and so they make the performances interactive. We then talk about the ceremonial events that took place on the stage of these majestic pyramids found at Teotihuacan and Tenochtitlan. The grand acoustics and the backdrop can be said to be equivalent to the structures we studied, a place where a powerful performance conducted by priests in a quite dramatic setting. We look at the pyramids as a theater, a proscenium wall. And after looking at all that, I then introduced the project to the students. Muro Códices, or Wall of Codex. I asked them to select a Mesoamerican story, to study it, and to research what a códice or codex is, and for them to create their own códice using their own interpretation to tell the story. We then take a look at a few examples of a codex or a códice. These are pages taken out of the Códice de Madrid or the Codex of Madrid, telling the accounts of the journey taken to find what the gods had told the indigenous to do. And then we jump right back to talking about John Haydock. And at this time, we've already talked about the Breath of Bacchus and what the theater is, and of course the assignment. Then we start talking about architectonic tectonics as John Haydock approached it, and we'll talk about the mask, the suicides, the victims, sanctuaries, and the wall house projects so that the students can get an idea on how they can transform the stories that they will recreate in their codex and then recreate that physically into architectonic shapes. We take a look at John Haydock's Mask of the Medusa and start off by talking about the Greek theatrical masks and how these were the fascia of the personality or the character that the actors were playing. The Mask of the Medusa is the metaphor for the shell of the thought, where we give definition to the inside of a subject through the mask or the skin that it protects. And here we have Riga projects, part of these masks that John was dealing with. It is about two planes flying over a city, and we as the passengers feel fear and courage. We embrace and brace for these, or as a response for these feelings. And the images that we see are a response that talks about the fear and the courage and the bracing and the embracing. For the Suicides Project, we read the poem written by David Shapiro, then study how Haydock interprets the two personalities. The images here show the Suicides Project being built at the Cooper Union over in the lower left-hand corner, and the permanent location where it sits now, the House of Suicide and the House of the Mother of Suicides in Prague, the picture or the image on the right. For the Victims Project, we take a look at how John Haydock again interprets the personalities of the victims of a concentration camp in Berlin based on the individual's occupation or phase in life. So if we take a look at the list that we have there, it's 67 personalities or characters that he is interpreting architectonically. Number 1 is the horticulturalist, 10 operator, 16 are children, and 20 is a nurse. And then we could see his interpretation of those personalities in the little sketches that he made there on the left of the list. We take a look at the floor plan where Haydock locates these different personalities, and one of these structures that were built, which is the musician, and there is the structure placed in the location of the concentration camp, and of course its personality. As a historical reference and a explanation on how the evolution of John Haydock's wall house came about, we do take a look at the Texas houses and the diamond houses. We take a look at the wall house in terms of time and event. Everything on the right side of the wall are social and sleeping events, while the horizontal and vertical elements on the left of the wall are the clock arms that take you to those events, or to the element on the far left, which is the time to work. And we discuss these time frames and events so that the students can get the idea on how to place their events in the time of the codex. And from the wall house, we see how Haydock transitions to the sanctuaries, still using the measure of time and event interpreted architectonically to tell a story, whether it's the story of how one lives in time or a series of events in time. We watched two lectures given by David Gersten on John Haydock and primarily focus on part 2, a lecture entitled John Haydock Through the Wall. David Gersten describes the Sanctuaries project where the students at the Cooper Union took a biblical event and gave it a graphic interpretation, then transformed that to an architectonic element depicting time and event. We revisit the assignment and the students apply all the concepts and philosophies to develop their projects. In the following slides, I will provide a summary of the story for 5 selected projects, showing their codex and their drawings created for their solution, followed by a slide showing their models. The 4 ages of humanity were each governed by a different sun god. According to the tale, each era ended in catastrophe, leading to the extinction of humanity. At the birth of the 5th sun, the gods created a new generation of mankind to end the horrific cycle. For the creation of the 5th sun, the gods lit a great bonfire and agreed that important sacrifices would be required. 2 sub-gods were chosen for the task: Nenahuatzin, a humble god, and Tecusistecatl, a proud and arrogant deity. Both gods offered divine sacrifices, but the final decision rested on one ultimate act. They were both asked to sacrifice themselves to become the sun. Tecusistecatl hesitated, but without hesitation, Nenahuatzin leapt into the fire, becoming the sun. Witnessing this, Tecusistecatl, out of pride, ran and jumped into the fire as well. To prevent 2 suns from rising, the gods threw a rabbit into his light, and as a result, Tecusistecatl was transformed into the moon. Ixchel, a mortal woman, and the god Itzamna were attracted to each other and secretly met. Their affair flourished into a deep love that grew to be pure and strong. One day their love was tested by a prince from a distant empire who was traveling the lands, and when passing through, and upon seeing Ixchel, was taken by her beauty and declared himself to her. Ixchel's sister, unaware of the existing affair, arranged for the prince to meet with Ixchel. This angered Itzamna, who in a fit declared his love for Ixchel. To settle the score, Ixchel's sister proposed that the 2 men fight in a duel, with the winner claiming Ixchel's love. The battle started and raged on, and when Itzamna was about to defeat the prince cheated and struck a fatal blow to Itzamna. Heartbroken, Ixchel ended her own life in despair. Upon Itzamna's death, his soul ascended to the heavens, where he took his place as god of the sun. There he united with Ixchel and transformed her to the goddess of the moon. To the Aztecs, Tlaloc is the god of rain, fertility, and water, who is often depicted as a man with circles around his eyes and jaguar-like fangs. He was believed to possess the power of lightning and thunder, as well as the ability to control the abundance of plants, trees, and all things green. While Tlaloc was away, fulfilling his duties as the god of the sun, his beautiful wife, Xochiquetzal, was abducted by Tezcatlipoca, the malevolent god of night. Enraged by this disgrace, Tlaloc blamed the people for his wife's abduction and withheld rain, causing their crops to wither. The people desperately pleaded for his mercy, offering sacrifices, but nothing could console him. The gods grew concerned of this severity in which the humans were being punished, and intervened by sending Tlaloc a new wife, Chalchihuitlique. Tlaloc was pleased, and in gratitude he sent abundant rains to nourish the crops saving humanity from disaster. Known as the Four Eyes Beneath the Lagoon, another belief regarding Tlaloc, the god of rain, lightning, water, agriculture, and fertility, was that he resided in the mountain peaks above the clouds in the realm of Tlalocan. For the Aztecs, Tlaloc was the ruler of atmospheric phenomena and the spirit of the mountains. His immense power was honored with significant sacrifices, both of animal and humans, since the success of these offerings was crucial for the prosperity of their agriculture. Based on these sacrifices, Tlaloc provided the necessary rain for crops, but when displeased, he would withhold water or send too much or too little, all of which could determine whether the harvest would be plentiful or scarce. The gods in this tale are Coatlicue, the goddess of the earth and fertility, and the mother of both Coyolxauhqui, the goddess of the moon, and Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun. A prophecy foretold events that would unfold during a solar eclipse similar to the one experienced on April 8, 2024. According to the prophecy, day and night would face each other in a battle lasting 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the duration of the eclipse. This battle was waged by Coyolxauhqui, who believed her mother had been unfaithful and sought to restore her father's honor by killing Coatlicue and defeating Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli emerged from his mother's womb, ready for battle, and as Coyolxauhqui struck Coatlicue, Huitzilopochtli swiftly dismembered and decapitated his sister, sending her parts to the base of the Mountain of Serpents. This scene is depicted at the Templo Mayor in what was once Tenochtitlan. At the Templo Mayor, two great temples stood at the top of the Great Pyramid, one dedicated to Tlaloc, the god of rain, and the other to Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun. At the base lay a round white stone with the image of the dismembered Coyolxauhqui, where the blood of the sacrifices would drain from the top of the pyramid. The final step of the process is presentation. The students, through a virtual call, present their project to faculty from other institutions so that they get used to presenting remotely. Here is Nestor Infanzon, a doctoral student at Texas A&M College Station, and Professor Wendy Ornelas from Kansas State University. Thank you for joining me today. This concludes my presentation. And as Frank Lloyd Wright once said, I hope this was of value to someone, but I don't know if it was. Emmanuel Moreno again, thanking you for joining our program. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to our 2025 conference in Boston, Reimaging Architecture Education, Empowering the Next Generation of Students. It will be taking place on June 6th through 7th. We've planned an exciting and engaging event, and we would love for you to join us. If you are not a member and wish to be a part of the conversation and the coalition, contact us. We are eager to hear from you. Until next time, enjoy life to the fullest.